this computer. All right, here we go. Hi, everyone. Happy Sunday. I'm Nina, the founder of Sapph-Lit, and we're here with Alison Cochrun.
Yay.
All right.
Hello.
So I'm going to intro Alison to you all, and then we're going to get into my questions. And if you have any questions for Alison at any point, drop them in the chat, and I can refer back to them during the Q&A portion at the end. All right, here we go. All right, Alison Cochrun is a former high school English teacher and a current writer of queer love stories, including her debut novel, The Charm Offensive, and Kiss Her Once for Me, which won the Lambda Literary Award for Best LGBTQ Romance in 2023. She lives outside of Portland, Oregon, with two big dogs, her small wife, and a vast collection of brightly colored books. Thank you so much for being here, Alison.
Yeah, thank you everyone for coming on a Sunday morning-ish, depending on where you are.
Perfect. All right, so this book is, oh, we have more waiting room people. This book is chaotic, messy, Hallmark holiday vibes in the best, gayest way. You have a fake engagement, a kind of love trapezoid, found family, almost love at first sight, meet cute vibes. I'd love to hear how you found the inspiration for these tropes and how weaving them all together came about. How did you know which ones were right for this story?
Great question. And I wish that I had like a more profound answer. But the like inception of this book came in June of 2020. So like 3 months into quarantine. I had just sold my debut, The Charm Offensive, and my agent, we were waiting to get edits back for that. And so my agent was like, all right, let's write another book. What are your ideas? And I like truly had no ideas. I was like not feeling like creatively inspired. I was like stuck in my house with just like my dog and my sister, like it wasn't, yeah, it was not the most like creatively generative time. And so I was pretty worried that I would never have another idea again. Um, and to help like get my brain going, I just made a list of like romantic comedies that I love. So I was just like journaling and I was like, okay, like what gets me excited about romantic comedies? And one of my absolute just like all-time favorites is While You Were Sleeping, starring Sandra Bullock and Bill Pullman. And I was like, well, I love that. And, Bill Pullman happens to look like a Portland lesbian, like in that movie. So like I'll just use
You're
that.
not wrong.
No, he like completely like floppy hair, like he wears that like reversible jacket, and then like it's usually khaki, and he's got like a flannel under. It's like
It's
a whole
so
vibe.
of today as
Yeah,
well.
it's you can like walk down the street in Portland, and like that is what you see. And so I was like, okay, like I'll start there. And so really like, and if you've seen the movie and you've read the book, like they're very different. And so it's not really like a retelling, but it was inspired by that. And so a lot of the like tropes and things that are in the book exist because they existed in that movie. Not because like I was being super clever. It was just that like, like While You Were Sleeping vaguely takes place at the holidays. Like it's a holiday movie. So this will be a holiday book. And it's a movie about found family, and about a woman who kind of like becomes, she's welcomed into this existing family that is chaotic and, dysfunctional, but also like full of love for each other. And so,
Yeah, has the stoner grandma, like all of the
ex-
elements of loving chaos are there.
yeah, exactly. And so a lot of that was just me like borrowing from that 1995 classic. And then that was, yeah, kind of how a lot of those tropes and concepts ended up weaving together within the story.
Love that. And I'm so curious how the publishing process has been different from you since your Charm Offensive debut. Have there been massive differences between book one, book two, and soon to be book three, which I'm really excited about as well?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, everyone is really different, both in like the writing process and the publishing process. I think one of the fun things about a debut is that it is a book that you probably wrote like for yourself,
Yeah.
right? Like for me, like I wrote The Charm Offensive because I like had this idea that was, talking to me and I was excited to sit down and write it. And so in the drafting process, I wasn't writing it to get published. I was just writing it like for fun. And so, and no audience in mind, just doing what I wanted. Um, and I think once you get published, like, which is amazing, and I'm so fortunate to have been able to sell that book, but then you kind of never write for yourself again, right? And so I think that's kind of the biggest difference is that once you publish, you're always writing with an audience in mind. And when I started writing Kiss Her Once for Me, nobody had read The Charm Offensive yet. So like my anxiety, of course, was just like, nobody's gonna buy it except my parents, and like I was freaking out. And so I was like, why am I even writing a second book? Um,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then as it got, as people started reading The Charm Offensive, and a lot of people really loved it, the fear became, oh gosh, I'm not going to like this one as much. Like they're not going to, here's what they liked about my first book. My second book doesn't have that. What if they hate that? And so I think one of the hardest parts about writing like a second book and the third book, I'm writing my fourth book right now, is that you always kind of have the voice of your readers a little bit in the back of your head. And I think trying to get past that and write a book that is just like what you love, because usually that's like what I think people pick up on and are drawn to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, yeah, in the
Um,
writing process.
and of course, one of the biggest differences between Charm Offensive and Kiss Her Once for Me is one is MLM and one is WLW. I'd love to know how, I mean, besides the obvious, what are the differences in writing those kinds of romances? And then also the reception. Have you seen a difference in the reception of those stories?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. So when I wrote The Charm Offensive, like when I wrote the first draft in June of 2019, I was not out.
Mm,
Like not even really like to myself. Like I was still working through some stuff and figuring some stuff out. And so I had this idea because I'm a Bachelor fan. And the idea of writing about two women falling in love was like horror. Like I would have never, because that was like way too close to this part of me that I was not fully ready to confront feels too aggressive, but I wasn't ready to kind of unpack. And so I started writing The Charm Offensive about two men falling in love. And the process of writing that book, and especially like self-inserting, Charlie is very much like me as a character, as a person. And so that was kind of how I worked through a lot of stuff with my sexuality and coming out later in life. And, you know, puzzling through being like on the asexual spectrum. And so that book kind of is what gave me the ability to then write books about women falling in love, because through the process of writing and publishing that book, like I was able to come out. And so when I wrote Kiss Her Once for Me, that was somehow even more deeply personal because at the time I was just starting to date women.
yeah.
And it was the pandemic, and so it was like horrible online dating. But I felt very much like in writing Kiss Her Once for Me, I was writing the like love story I wanted for myself, which felt like deeply vulnerable and scary. And so that was a vastly different writing process, for sure. And then in terms of reception, I mean, I think what's been fun is that I think both books have found their audience and like found people who connect with the characters. And so I'm really grateful for that. But it is hard when you kind of know that MM books sell better.
Yeah.
And they reach wider audiences within the romance community. And so I think being able to kind of look at the data of that is sometimes challenging.
Yeah. It's Yeah, it's very interesting um, for me thinking about it, like running a Sapphic book club and really wanting to increase Sapphic representation in literature as a part of our mission. And yeah, the Sapphic invisibility really still like throughout history permeates through the publishing industry as well, I think. But hopefully that can change over time as we continue to write these Sapphic stories.
Yeah. And the thing is right now is that we have like, I don't know, I feel like it's a sapphic renaissance
Oh, yeah.
in romance, particularly because there are so many good sapphic books that have come out in like the last 2 years. And then this year, I can't even believe how many sapphic romances we have. I'm so excited.
We're drowning in them over here.
Totally. And yet I still like people will say to me all the time that like, oh, there just aren't any sapphic romances.
Lie.
And
You haven't
yeah,
been
and so
looking hard enough.
yeah, people will be like, oh, well, like it's so hard to find sapphic romances. I'm like, it's really not that hard.
Like
Like,
literally just use Google.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you've probably seen them, like, unless you are on some kind of corner of the internet that is like completely hetero, like I just feel like you
How
must see
sad.
them. Yeah, like Ashley Herring Blake is a big deal. Like, those are amazing books, and like Alexandria Bellafleur and like so many. Yeah, I saw someone in the comments say like obviously the Goodreads Choice Awards were just horrible all around this year. But yeah, they were super straight and so super cis. Um, but yeah, so I think it's funny. I think there's still this perception for readers who are not sapphic that there it aren't a lot of sapphic books out there, which is just um yeah,
Yeah.
so silly.
100%. And you mentioned that you're personally on the asexual spectrum. And one of my questions is, pointing to Ellie is actually the first demi-bi character that I've read, which was so beautiful to read as a bisexual person who has never read asexual representation. And it's really important for me as a Sapphic book club leader to find books like that for our community. So I'd love to know what about that identity and the asexual spectrum itself was really important for you to get across in the story.
Yeah. And again, I unfortunately have to go back to my debut in order to answer that question because like as I was writing Charm Offensive, like Charlie was not initially on the asexual spectrum. That is just something that happened as I was writing about my own experiences, something that like I kind of uncovered both about him as a character and about myself. And so it was something that I just ended up writing about and was very surprised. Like I got no pushback from my public, like everybody really embraced that. And I ended up getting so much um, like so many personal messages from readers about different aspects of the book, but that was one of them. Is that people appreciated being able to see a character kind of grappling with the asexual spectrum, and that as a part of queerness. And so I think when I sat down to write Kiss Her Once for Me, I wasn't going to make Ellie demisexual, um, because I was like, oh, this is horrible. This sounds terrible. But in my head, I was like, oh, I've already done that.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't do that again. Cause like I did that in my first book as if like identities were tropes, which is not true. Like that was just my self-conscious brain talking. Um, and I think once I realized that like that's not how it works. I can write asexual characters in every book if I want to. Like that's fine. It just became important to me to incorporate that into the story and then to also show for Ellie it's not she's not figuring out her sexuality. Like she knows she is bisexual, she knows that she is demisexual, she like knows how some like sexual attraction is experienced in her body. And so I think I wanted to write to a character that like wasn't questioning, but it was just like this is who I am and what I bring to romantic relationships and sexual relationships.
And that kind of story where no one's questioning it, it is what it is so important for readers who are questioning it and don't know what it is. I mean, coming out stories and like those kind of coming of age discovery stories have been, the start of so many queer representation in the media. And, we're moving past that to these really sure of themselves characters. I don't know how to phrase that,
Yeah.
but I mean, that's like my favorite kind of sapphic story is like, yep, it is what it is. And we're not going to face any homophobia or acephobia or, you know, biphobia, what transphobia, like those stories where those aren't blockers are very rare, I find, and refreshing to read. Um, Okay, so you are also very open about having ADHD on the internet, and I'd love to hear how you incorporate neurodivergence into your characters and why that kind of representation is important for you as an author, because Ellie's anxiety was highly relatable for me personally, and I love reading neurodivergent characters, who are also queer. I feel like that's, something that isn't seen very much and I love as a neurodivergent queer baby.
Once again, you were asking all these questions where I wish I had super profound answers. But the truth is that like writing about neurodivergence is also something that came about just because like that is a journey I have also been
Yeah.
on, in terms of navigating how my own brain works, the last couple of years in particular. I mean, anxiety and depression, like I've, you know, uh, dealt with those my whole life, but kind of exploring neurodivergence. I think sometimes things like ADHD are easily masked by anxiety.
Yeah.
And so, especially for women who are less likely to receive ADHD diagnoses because it looks so different
Yeah.
um, in different people. And so, I think being able to write about characters who are neurodivergent um, is also just been a way for me to like explore my own identity. And I think one of the things I love about romance as a genre is that it's like centered around this kind of idea that everyone is worthy of love.
Yeah.
And so I think what's beautiful as when romance is diverse, is that we get to see love stories that have been like historically excluded, from mainstream media. And we kind of get that feeling of seeing that we're all worthy of love. And so I think neurodivergence for me is just one piece of that. But again, it's not that profound. Like I wrote
Okay.
Jack before my ADHD diagnosis. And then after was like, oh, I would change a lot if
Yeah.
I did this again. And then I once again was like, well, I can't write about ADHD again. And then I did. So my third book, both characters have ADHD. And I was like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that is fine.
As now that I understand my own brain more, I have more that I kind of want to say and explore about that.
I love that. Yeah, I love what you said about how this diverse representation shows that all different types of people are worthy of love. Because, I mean, that's in therapy, talking about how my neurodivergence has been a barrier to romance in the past. And then seeing stories like this is just mwah, chef's kiss. So we were talking before everyone hopped on. This story takes place in Portland. I've never been, and I know you live there. So what role does Portland play and like the place of Portland play in this story? And what are some things that someone who's never been to Portland may have missed, like little nuggets that you put in there?
Great question. I mean, people who are from Portland like tend to be like, oh my gosh, you included blah blah blah. And they get really excited about it. I found out recently, like Powell's bookstore in Portland, like posted something online, like a TikTok that went viral. And someone sent me like in the comments, they were like, hey, like the book Kiss Her Once for Me takes place in this bookstore. Like, I didn't know it was real.
Yeah, I didn't know it was real either.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, I didn't realize, like, because in Portland, Powell's is like so iconic. And so um, I think, yeah, I think that's a big thing for a lot of local readers is that like, they're like, oh, yes, like the Burnside Bridge. We know what this is. I also get a lot of people being like, the way that we react to snow here is very specific. And so like trying to capture that in the flashback chapters, people often reach out and are like, ah, yes, that is how we respond. It shuts down the entire world because we we have no idea how to deal with snow here.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm from Boston, so it's the complete opposite. I'm like,
Exactly.
I never had a snow day in high school, not once. And
That's tragic.
we had a blizzard the year that I moved there, like 110 inches of snow. And I think it was like the first snow day in like decades there. But no, we are like we have the salt, we have the plows, we have the machine that turns the snow into water. Like it is will really assemble in Boston.
Yeah.
But I did not know Portland didn't know how to deal with snow. You could learn a
No,
lot
I
from
mean,
us
I
Bostonians.
think like I think they know how to deal with snow. Yes, like this person that just said like there would be just a little bit of snow falling and they'd be like, let's cancel for the day. I don't
I
know,
love
this
that
could go
energy.
sideways. Um, but here we just like there's no reason to invest in like infrastructure to deal with snow because we get it so infrequently. So like we when it comes, it's just like, all right, like we've got we have those.
Love it.
Um, but yeah, no, it's I love snow days like for all the reasons. Even as a teacher, I loved snow days. So I'm always sad when people live in parts of the country where they don't get the day off when it like snows intensely. Um, but anyway, that was not what I think your question was like, what role does Portland play in the story?
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think what I wanted to do is like offer kind of a well, originally I just set it in Portland because my first book took place all over. And then I was like, all right, for this one, like I'm gonna pick somewhere I know and just like stay there the whole time. And so I set it at home. But I think Portland is such a like funky place. It's a super queer place. And so not it's not uncommon to have friend groups where like almost everyone is queer, and to like mostly interact with queer people. And so in having a story where all the characters were queer, it kind of lends itself to that. And so I liked that aspect. And I also just liked that I think Portland is a place of transplants, and like a lot of cities. But Portland is full of especially queer people like from all over the country, mostly Ohio, I swear. And like the Midwest, like we get a lot of Midwest transplants,
Yeah.
um, who kind of come to Portland because it has this like queer like mecca reputation.
Safe haven, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. And so people come, I mean, my wife is from Georgia. And she like she was here to do a residency, but like the first time she came to Portland, she was just like, I know this is where I want to be. This feels like right. And I think because of that, we also have a culture of found family and people who uh, might not be as close with their family members, their family of origin,
Yeah.
and kind of come to Portland and form, uh, yeah, those families of choice. And
Yeah.
so I think that is also something beautiful. And again, we see that in so many cities.
Oh,
But
absolutely. I mean, in New York, that's
yeah,
kind of same thing. It's like East Coast urban area, and there's the West Coast urban areas that are really these kind of like queer safe havens, with the exception of like further south on the East Coast. Yeah. But yeah, I really see that with Ellie and her like blood family, and then towards the end, that kind of like chosen family. That's awesome. So Taylor Swift plays a
oh
little bit
yes.
of a role in this novel. I'm a Swiftie. I went to the Eras Tour, met Life Night too. And as a Swiftie, I loved all of these little Easter eggs so, so much, and especially reading this at the time that that New York Times opinion piece came out called "Look What You Made Me Do." I don't know if you read it, but there was this whole New York Times opinion piece about how about the Gaylor theories.
Oh, is this the one that just came out like a couple
Yes.
days ago? Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So just like lots of convergence of queer stories and Taylor Swift Easter eggs with the Sapph-Lit reading month. And you call Jack a lover apologist, which I love. I just want to know, give me your take on Taylor, give me your favorite album, Gaylor, her eras, anything related to Taylor Swift that you want to talk about, the floor is yours.
Oh my God, that's so stressful. I that is so much pressure. Well, I also was very fortunate to be able to see the Eras tour in Seattle. Yeah,
Incredible.
so that
Wait,
was
so
amazing.
what were your surprise songs?
Oh shit. We had one of them. Okay, I was in first trimester of pregnancy, and so I actually ended up I only had to miss 4 songs the whole concert for vomit related reasons.
Oh
Um
no.
no, it was which was 4 was fine. I was very sick. Um and now you've asked me this question, which I should know the answer to, and I cannot for
It's
the
so
life of me. One was maybe like acoustic message in a bottle
beautiful.
thing.
Message in a
And
Bottle is so boppy. I love it.
yeah, I do too. And then the other, I cannot recall. I and I
No, you were pregnant. You have a full excuse.
and I think I've also like heard, like you've digested so much about the
Oh
Eras
yeah.
tour that you're like, wait, what did I see versus like what did I hear?
Oh, 100.
Um, but I know that we were a little disappointed by our because the other one, no, I think it was Message in a Bottle, which I love. And then the other one was from Debut.
Oh.
And it's a song that like I had heard like twice. Like in
Ugh,
my
yeah.
Taylor, like I'm like a pretty big Swiftie, but it was a song that I never choose to listen to. And I
Yeah.
can't even tell you the name right now because of brain. Um, but like you can just Google it, like
Yeah, Seattle Night
Second
2.
Night in Seattle.
Yeah.
Like, what did
Um,
she play?
yeah, we had False God and Holy Ground, but I was really riding for Right Where You Left Me, which is, I think, my favorite song of hers. Like, it's in my top five for
Love
sure.
that.
Um, yeah,
Hey,
and
okay.
it was very sad, but I am so happy that you
Oh,
were happy and that you had all of these references in it. That was just, for me, I think there needs to be more Swiftie Sapphic literature content.
Yeah, I that was all just self-indulgent. I was just like, someone tell me to take it out if they don't like it. It's fine. Um, Again, this is a quarantine book. Like we had just gotten folklore, or sorry, Evermore, a couple months before, or like during my drafting process. And we also got Red TV during this time. And so I was just like listening to a lot of
Such a
Taylor.
golden era
Yeah.
of being a Swiftie. Okay, incredible. So one of our Sapph-Liddies, Vic, wants to know more about Meredith. Vic asks, does Meredith take and pass the bar in February? I love the rep of failing the bar exam in July. So I'd love to know if Meredith actually passes and becomes a lawyer.
In my head can't, yes, of course. Yeah, so yes, she's definitely a practicing lawyer. Meredith is also one of those characters where she was a stand-in character in the first draft. Like I needed a friend character for her to talk to. And I didn't want to be creative, so I just inserted one of my best friends whose name is Meredith and
Oh
who
my
is a lawyer.
God.
And I just like put her in the story and was like, okay, I'll change all of these details later. And then I just like didn't change the details. And so that's just my friend Meredith. And she did not fail the bar exam the first time when she took it, but it was something because of the themes of the book that I really wanted to include and just like emphasize this idea that like I mean, the bar exam is freaking hard. Like people fail it all the time. Um, and so having that kind of counterpoint example of somebody experiencing failure and then just trying again,
Yeah.
instead of giving up. So
That was definitely like the central theme of the book for me is, not being afraid of failure and not being afraid of taking risks and to not be paralyzed by that self-doubt. Um, was that like the main thing that you really wanted readers to get away from the novel?
yeah, for sure. And again, like I'm a narcissist, clearly. It's like I just write about my own experiences. But like writing a second book was really scary. I mean, publishing a first book was really scary. Failure was definitely like a big thing we were talking about in therapy. And so I think writing about how a character deals with like past creative failure, and trying to show different ways of approaching failure and thinking about failure, and defining failure was definitely an important part of the story for me, and what I wanted kind of Ellie's main sort of wound to be, that she's exploring through the book.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of other characters in the novel, can we expect any Andrew and Dylan stories down the line? That was a frequently asked question.
Was it?
Yeah.
I always get people who are like, please write a book about the grandmas. I just want more grandmas content.
And with Andrew and Dylan, there could be more grandma
There
content.
could be yes, there could be more grandmas content. I doubt that there will be more, that there will ever be like an Andrew and Dylan
Yeah.
book or anything. Like, because for me, they're happily ever after. Like,
It's there.
it's
It's
there.
there.
Yeah, it happens in the story. It's not perfect, but like it occurs, like they end the book like in this place where they're trying to make their relationship work.
Yeah.
And so to me, yeah, I don't think there's like more to say about their romantic relationship. So if they appear in anything, it would be like bonus content
Very
stories.
fun. Is there a reaction from a reader for Kiss Her Once for Me that has stood out to you?
Oh, okay. This is like not, this is the only thing I can think of, again, because of baby brain. But I received an email from a reader who's 73, and had read Kiss Her Once for Me. And she was like this old lady lesbian. And she was just like, oh, like, these are the kind of books I wish we'd had when I was growing up. Like, thank you so much. And that one really stood out to me because like she's 73. Like, I
Yeah.
don't feel like 73-year-olds are like my target audience. Um, and yet like this woman read it and took the time to like send me an email, and that was really like adorable. And so that one is currently fresh in my mind.
That is so fucking cute. Oh my
It
God.
was, yeah, it was adorable. It was lovely.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that so much. Okay, so last of my questions. And people who are listening, if you have any questions, type them away. Tell us about your upcoming novel, Here We Go Again. And book 4 too, if you want to share like a little bit.
Yeah, book 4 is like a hot mess. I'm drafting it right now. Like, I could try to tell you something about book
Part of the
4, but it will
process.
probably all change. So book 3, yeah, Here We Go Again, is, I call it my sapphic road trip rom-com about death. And so it's about two women who like were childhood best friends and then had a falling out, but find themselves both back in their like small town. They're both teachers. I was a teacher for a long time. Um, and they have this shared mentor who was their high school English teacher. And he is dying in the beginning of the book, and he has this like dying wish, to return to Maine, like specifically just outside of Bar Harbor, Maine, uh, before he dies. Like that's where he would like to pass. And so they agree to drive him from where I live, because I am just outside of Portland, but I'm in Washington State because it's on the border. And so kind of close to where I live in Washington State, and then they drive to Maine, but they end up way off track. Yeah,
Shenanigans.
like most of the book actually takes place in like the South. So it's yeah.
I mean, gays can't drive. Gays don't know
Yeah,
directions.
exactly.
Carry on brand.
So they're all over the place. Um, and so yeah, that is where that book goes. And it's just about yeah, these two people kind of reconciling after years apart. And yeah,
I love it.
they're
Also, like childhood best friends, English teacher, mentor sounds pretty fruity.
yeah, exactly. Like if if you had like a intense attachment to your high school English teacher, like you're gay. It's just a fact,
It's
right?
just
You're
facts.
definitely queer. And I know, like, because I had a lot of students like in my DMs, like, you know, students who'd already graduated, like coming out to me after I came out publicly. And, you know, wrote started writing queer books. And so I was like, ah yes, that tracks, of
That was
course.
me for some baby
Yes.
gays.
Yeah, you are bisexual. Yes.
Yeah.
That makes sense. You too. Cool. Uh-huh.
My mom was a teacher, and that was like her favorite kind of game to play. It was like, "Mhm, they're gay now, and I taught them in preschool, and I can like, thanks, I guess. Okay, rapid fire round.
Okay, I'm ready.
What are you currently reading?
I just finished a sapphic book called Here for the Wrong Reasons, which is another bachelor
I'm
book.
friends with Lydia, and
Oh, really?
yeah, we both went to NYU. She's just absolutely delightful, and the book is so, so good. I'm like,
Yeah. So
let's read it.
so yeah, so I just finished that and had a great time. It was like watching a season of The Bachelor. Like it was full of drama and um ridiculousness, and I loved it. And then I'm also finally finishing Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan,
Yeah.
which is just like an amazing book. I highly recommend it. It, as a content warning, deals with a stillbirth. And
Oh,
so when I started reading it at the beginning of my pregnancy, I was like, oh no, not for me.
much for right now. Yeah.
And then I just decided like, sure, let's read it at the end. That's also
Not
not the
great.
best to read about a stillbirth, but it's such a good book, and I'm really excited for the second one in that series. So
Yeah. Amazing. What is the book that you recommend everyone read?
oh, that is such a hard question. But if we're thinking like queer romance, oh, it's not sapphic.
It's
Okay,
okay.
well, I love Anita Kelly is one of my just like absolute favorite like humans and writers. And I think Something Wild and Wonderful, which is their second book, is something that everyone should read. It's so fantastic. And then in terms of sapphic books that I read that I think everyone should read, ugh, there's so many. There's so many. I mean, I think everybody has already read Delilah Green Doesn't Care, but I like loved that book. And that was um
That
yeah,
whole series is so
it's
good.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the representation in that book, like I remember just reading it and being like, oh, I really connect to this. And so
Absolutely.
um yeah, I loved it.
Is there a book coming out soon that you're excited to read?
So many, like 2024 is going to be beautiful.
It's a stacked year. It's
It
looking,
is.
yeah.
It's really great. Anita Kelly has a sapphic book coming out that I have already read. So, but I do highly recommend, called How You Get the Girl. It's amazing.
Yes, I've heard of that.
Um, yeah. And then I also, The Fake Dating Game by Timothy Janowski comes out very soon. And that's another one that I highly recommend, especially if you like your romance like on the steamier side. It's very steamy and delightful. But one that I'm excited to read that I haven't read yet. Gosh, there's so many. I'm excited for that new Kennedy Ryan book.
Mhm.
Um, and Sangu Mandala, who wrote like uh The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches.
Yes.
has the sequel to that coming out, and I'm super excited about it. Oh, and I really want to read the like Pride and Prejudice meets Parent Trap, Sapphic. What's it called? It's called Don't Want You Like a Best Friend.
Yes,
It's
which
got
is
that
a Taylor
purple
Swift
cover.
reference.
Yeah, exactly. And
Mhm.
so it's got that purple cover and like the two, maybe it's Victorian. I don't remember what the
It's
era
giving
is.
like Bridgerton.
Yeah, I think Bridgerton is the vibe, but
Yeah.
like also the Parent Trap. Oh, Amy says it's so good. I'm so glad to know that, Amy. Because I have not read it yet and I'm very excited to.
Amazing. Oh my God,
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch this back later and like write all of these down. If someone has been taking down notes, please drop them in our chat in Geneva. Okay, did you take up an unusual quarantine activity besides writing a book?
No, honestly, like I was my sister back then, at the beginning of quarantine, like we were both single, and her roommate like moved in with her partner. And so like my sister moved in with me because she didn't want to be alone. Um, and so we quarantined together. And my sister was like the queen of quarantine hobbies. You know, like she was all about like her sourdough starter. And like she did tons of baking, which I benefited from. Um, and so that was all fantastic. And then like I just tried to work
Yeah.
and did a bad job at it and then watched like way too much Netflix.
Oh
I
yeah.
feel like it would be like, all right, it's 5 o'clock. Like
It's time for Tiger King.
let's move to the couch now and rewatch every season of Great British Bake Off. This is a great
Beautiful.
use of our time. And that is like kind of it for me
Love.
during quarantine. Yeah.
If you could have dinner with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
Probably Jane Austen or Mary Shelley.
Yeah,
Yeah.
love. Favorite sapphic movie and or TV show?
Such a good question. I mean, it's like the TV show is not primarily sapphic, but the sapphic relationship in Heartstopper is like so near and dear to my heart. So that's very fresh on my mind because I just think Darcy and oh my God, Tara
Mhm.
are like, I don't know, they're just messy and adorable and I love them. And so that's fantastic. I have hate watched a lot of L Word, and I say that only because like
It's
it's so
so bad.
bad.
It's
It's
so
just
bad.
even like Generation Q was just like still like for a while I was like, oh, okay, like they're making some normal human choices. And then it just like they just do outrageous, ridiculous things.
Yeah.
You know, I agree, Mallory. Like the drama
Literally.
is, but like I'm just yes, we all have to suffer through. Um, and so I mean, I love that series for like what it is,
Yeah.
but it's chaotic. We need more like quality sapphic TV shows because I'm a
Agree.
big TV person. Um, and like one of my favorite shows of the last couple of years was like Our Flag Means Death, like the first season,
Mm-hmm.
flawless. Oh, Dickinson is really good too, Jesse. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. That's an amazing sapphic show. Um, but I want like a sapphic version of Pirates, you know, like of Our Flag Means Death. Like
Yeah.
um, yeah, shows that exist beyond one season, Tori. I agree. Oh, see, Bly Manor, I love looking at pictures of those beautiful women together, but I'm a big coward. I can't watch anything
Oh my
scary.
God.
And so, like,
So
when
no
the
yellow jackets for you.
no, honestly, I watched the first episode of Yellow Jackets when everybody was all about it and like had nightmares for like a week. I'm a huge baby. A League of Our Own is so great. But
Yeah.
again, like, yeah, we're not getting a second season. We don't get to see.
It's so devastating.
It's just not, yeah, it's,
Yeah. Amazon hates gay people.
yeah. I
Yeah.
would also love like a sapphic comedy. Like, I love to laugh. And so something that is just like fun and funny, but like with a bunch of lesbians or bisexual, you know, like just okay, Bottoms, Jesse, I've also heard is very, very good, and I haven't seen it yet.
Yes.
And so I
There
need to
is
watch.
a bit of blood and fighting, but I think you can handle it.
It's not scary, so I
Yeah,
think
it's
I'll
not
be
scary.
okay.
It's funny. Like laugh out loud, like doubling over with laughter in the theater for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Emma, I had the same thing. I missed Bottoms when it was in theaters. I think it is, I think you can rent it on Amazon, maybe. Is that
maybe.
what? I don't think it's
I
streaming.
think it was free on Amazon Prime last time I checked. I might
Oh,
be
was it?
it
Okay,
might
then it's
yeah.
time. Then it's time
Maybe
for me to watch.
maybe when you move to the couch at 5 o'clock,
Exactly.
that can be your
I
moment.
mean, I am very pregnant right now. I moved to the couch a lot earlier than 5 o'clock these days.
I love it. I love it.
Ugh.
Favorite sapphic celebrity or content creator to follow on social media?
Oof, that is so hard. I think favorite like new sapphic, like quote unquote celebrity is I got very into watching The Ultimatum, the queer version. And I like love Mal so much. And so like I just think like, oh, so hot and amazing. And that show is should be queer. Like it doesn't make any sense as a straight show. It
Yeah.
it's the choices that the people make are like, yeah, that queer people would do that. Queer people would absolutely fall in love with someone brand new in 3 weeks. Like straight people, no, like
No,
this
they
doesn't
don't
make
do
any
that.
sense.
No.
No. And so I love it as a queer show. I think it should only be queer seasons.
With a
But
queer
I also,
host, ideally, next time.
pardon,
They need the host to be queer next time around.
yeah.
Yeah, she was just
Yeah,
like, I'm straight. Like literally episode
made
one.
no
I was
sense.
like, we know.
Yeah. It was a really weird choice. But like lesbians that I do love. I love Kristen Stewart mostly because my best friend in college uh like loved Kristen Stewart. Like she was obsessed with her and I was always like I don't get it. Like this was back, I'm old. So like this was like when first
Twilight,
Twilight movie
yeah,
came out.
Twilight
Like
era. With the
yeah,
long hair and the dating Robert.
yeah, kind of like mousy,
Yeah, like
and she
always
was like
her hair.
exactly. And my friend Michelle was like, no, like I just, I love her. She is gonna be amazing. Um, and I like made fun of her so much.
And
And then
now look, she was right.
yeah, she was. She knew Kristen Stewart was going to be a queer icon before any of us did. And so I always like think of Kristen Stewart and think of my best friend and
I
just
love
like
it.
uh
Okay,
yeah.
last rapid fire question. Favorite class you took in school or like university?
I mean, oh, I can't just say English, huh? Because that would be like, I
Is
mean,
there
of course.
like a specific like Dickinson course? I don't know. I took so many like super niche courses in college, and I'm always curious to see what other authors.
I really loved romanticism. So like when I was in studying English literature, like that was my big era that I love to focus on. Again, like I loved Mary Shelley and Frankenstein is one of my favorite books. Maybe not my favorite book to read, but my favorite book to talk about. Like I just think it is so fascinating. And so I loved romanticism and I took a lot of classes on that got me really excited. And I love Shakespeare. Just a big old Shakespeare nerd. And so I took a couple Shakespeare classes in college that were really cool.
Yeah. Dame Judi Dench is coming out with a memoir through Shakespeare. Like she's doing like a whole like telling her story through Shakespeare stories kind of memoir book.
Oh, interesting.
It's on NetGalley. So I saw it.
Okay.
Yeah, take a look.
Okay. I am like so
It's
far behind in my reading. I can't go on NetGalley right now because I'm like, no, I gotta just like focus on like books I'm supposed to blurb and then like reading books that came out like a full year ago because I'm very behind.
There.
Um, but I'll keep that on my radar. Yeah.
Okay, so we're moving into Q&A and we have some in the chat. Jesse asks, will there be a little Kiss Her Once for Me bonus content like you did for Charm? Because I will read that so
Mm.
fast.
The answer is I would love to. And maybe it depends. Like I'm trying to write some bonus content right now for the Here We Go Again pre-order campaign. Words are so hard. And we'll see if I actually can finish that like before I give birth. And so it kind of depends on some circumstantial things right now, like how uh productive I am able to be in the next couple of weeks before baby boy comes.
Oh,
So I'm sorry, that's a terrible answer, I know. Um, but hopefully.
cute. She also asks, I know the answer to this question. Did you watch the Golden Bachelor wedding?
I didn't because I did not watch the Golden Bachelor season. I know, shame. I actually haven't watched the last couple of seasons of The Bachelor. I think after writing a Bachelor book and then talking about it a lot for like a long time, I got a little bit burnt out. And so I didn't watch, yeah, I haven't watched the last couple of seasons, and I didn't watch The Golden Bachelor, and everybody in my life was really disappointed in me. Like my sister was so mad that I wasn't watching it. My best friend was so mad that I wasn't watching it. So then they just like bypassed me and like texted each other the whole time. And just was like, well, fine, like we'll have our own party without you. And so I I wish that I had watched The Golden Bachelor, especially like as it was airing, because now, yeah, I like kind of know too much about how it ends. But
Need for the 73-year-old lesbian that emailed you, we need a sapphic Golden Bachelorette
oh my
um
God, that would be
moment of
amazing.
elder lesbians falling in love.
Yeah. Yeah. And Rory in the comments, like, it's so hard. Yeah. I think my capacity to watch like hetero dating shows has like tapered off a little bit. I would just really like to see more queer
Have you
reality
seen
dating
the
shows.
5th season of Are You the One?
I have, yes. So I watched
Fourth
that.
one. Yeah, it's so
Yeah,
good.
it's so good. But I also like, here's my thing about that is just like for 2 seconds, is that like I love that. That was beautiful. But also at no point did I believe any of those people were actually there to find love. You know, like that's not the point of Are You the One? Like
No, it's for money.
you don't like think that that's why they're there. Like
Yeah.
you know that they have ulterior motives. You know that like none of those couples are going to like stay together. You're just here to like watch them kind of be shady and like hook up and just, like cry while being way overserved. You know, like you're just there for the drama. Um and like that's true of The Bachelor as well, but I do sort of like that The Bachelor wants you to believe that those couples are going to stay together. Like they're trying
So
to
much
sell you
so.
like the fairy tale. Um, and I want a little bit more of that in my like queer dating shows. Like I want, because there was also, I don't know, did anyone watch like 12, it was called 12 Dates of Christmas?
No.
It was, I think, on during quarantine. It was like a reality dating show that had like three leads. And so like one of them was gay. Um, and it was great, but again, like there was no, like I never once believed that guy was there to find love. Like it was just not
I
believable.
want a queer season of Love is Blind.
Yeah, I think because again, that like the ultimatum is like,
Yeah.
hell yeah, that's
Like
something queer people would
like
totally.
lesbians would fall in love and propose day one, and then they would
Yeah,
like go to Mexico and then see someone else, and it would just be the
it would be.
best.
Yeah, it would be
Yeah,
just like that amazing season of the ultimatum, which
exactly.
I think, yeah, is my favorite queer season of a reality dating show.
All right, Anna asks, have you read Make You Mine this Christmas? It was amazing and reminded me a lot of Kiss Her Once for Me, which I also adored.
Oh, thank you. I haven't yet. So it was pure. I've heard that the books are super similar, like in a lot of ways. And it was pure coincidence, like oh, Huxley. But I'm forgetting her like tag on Instagram is like Lil Hux or something. And so I can't remember what the author's actual name is, except for that I think her last name is Huxley. Liz Huxley? Anyway. But we like both had books coming out that were like super, super similar. And so I didn't read her book at the time because I was like, this will be bad for my anxiety.
Yeah.
Like, I will be like, I have no creative original thoughts. We wrote the same book, like 5,000 miles apart, because she is in the UK.
Lizzie
And
Jones.
Huxley. Oh, thank you. Lizzie Huxley Jones. Yes. Um, and she's so kind. Like we talk on the internet and stuff. I really like her, but I didn't read her book because I was afraid. And then time passed and I just still didn't read it because I forgot. But I have heard that it is wonderful.
Yeah, love. Well, that was our last community question. Is there anything else that you want to say to Sapph-Lit, or anything else that I didn't ask that you want to share?
No, I mean, thank you so much. This is an amazing community. I love that y'all are out here like reading sapphic books and talking about them and promoting them. That's amazing. And I can't wait to see what books y'all choose to read this year because again, there are just so many. There
Mm-hmm.
are so many coming
Oh, I know.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our polls are going to be stacked.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Yeah, I really loved How You Get the Girl by Anita Kelly. That's one of the ones I've already read. I think it comes out in March or February. Oh, I think it actually comes out in February because I think it comes out right around my due date, and that is why I can't do an event with Anita. I'm very sad. But I also read Late Bloomer by Maisie Eddings. I
Mm,
think that one comes out in April or May. That's another one I highly recommend. And then In Her Service, or no, it's At Her Service.
at her service. Yeah.
At Her Service, yes, by Amy Spalding. I
Yeah.
also was able to read that one.
The one that
Um,
I just read that I think just came out this month is Interesting Facts About Space by Emily Austin.
I've heard about that, but I also like I didn't even know it was sapphic until like two
Oh,
days ago.
yeah. I highly recommend it. It's like neurodivergent lesbian who's highly anxious and gets into a bunch of shenanigans. It's wonderful.
That sounds amazing. Okay,
Love.
I'm definitely got to put that on my list.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you so much for all of the recommendations. Thank
Yeah.
you for being here and giving us your time and giving us our December book. I cannot wait to read book 3 and hopefully chat more in the future.
Yeah, thank y'all so much. I really appreciate it.
All right, have a good rest of your day and cannot wait to see baby boy when he chooses to enter the world.
Yes, I'm very excited
All
and
right.
antsy because I'm huge and it hurts.
All right. Thank you, Allison. Have a good
Yeah,
rest of your
bye.
day.
Take
Bye.
care, everyone.